I know it's cold because I live in the Midwest and snow is everywhere. Yeah, you gotta be tough to live in the Midwest. I know you're not tough.
No, I'm in South Florida.
I know you're not tough
I don't want
either.
I love it. I love to visit and to work.
Hey, keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Well, we got two Midwestern teams here. We got Butler and Creighton on their home floor. Welcome into TNT College Basketball, presented by Vanda Pharmaceuticals. I'm Tim Doyle, alongside Seth Davis, Greg Anthony, DC, Dallin Cuff. Guys, we got two teams right now, maybe trending in different directions. Butler has overachieved, had some nice wins. As far as Creighton, expectations was to sky high, Greg, but they got off to a little bit of a bumpy start.
Yeah, well, the reality is when you look at Creighton, oftentimes when you're going to have to rely on transfers and they're stepping up in competition, it could be a transition for them. And I think that's what's been a big issue for Creighton thus far this season. Whereas with Butler, they just seem to be rolling. I don't think they've overachieved. I think Butler is just an underrated team that people haven't paid a lot of attention to because the growth of their players that they brought back. That's why. Like most of the times we're looking at teams, it's based on who they brought in. It's not always based on how much guys have improved. And that's why Butler right now is rolling.
I will say Michael Ajayi, I think, he's a big addition. Like to have a guy that played at Gonzaga and played a role, but a good role at Gonzaga, to come in and kind of take this role of, all right, it's kind of one of my team now. He's a big wing. He's effective. He's helped Butler take him to the next level and build for Thad Matta's team this year. The returners are key to this team. I am surprised by how they've performed. Not just their record is not that surprising. It's how they've looked in these games. Like their offenses, they're able to play at a good pace. They're able to get in the lane and make plays for each other. They get to the free throw line. They manufacture offense in many different ways. Defensively, they continue to get better. And for a league that has not started the way they wanted to. The Big East is not from the top. St. John's had their problems. In the middle, and Marquette and Providence have had their problems. You list others. But Butler's been a very big bright spot for the league so far.
Good wins over South Carolina, Virginia at the Greenbrier. They're one possession away from being undefeated.
Yeah.
Their only loss at SMU. Actually covered that game, spent some time with Thad Matta. He talked about in year 4 really coming to the realization that in the Big East, you got to have athletes. And so in terms of his recruiting and bringing in guys out of the transfer portal, getting longer, faster, deeper, likes to play a ton of guys. But we showed Finley Bizjack as a guy who's been there for 3 years, who's really coming into his own as a scorer. So they're hitting their stride at the right time.
You know, Thad Matta has been there at Butler now a handful of seasons. He has not won 20 games yet. Guys, he had a stretch when he was the head coach of Ohio State. He won 20 games, 16 straight years. And I was some of those losses when I was on Northwestern.
Scouted you.
So I remember
He scouted you.
Let's check out the net rankings for the Big East Conference. Seth, when you see all these numbers, all these teams, does anything kind of jump out at you?
Well, look, it's fun fodder for a conversation. You know, the lack of teams, the small number of teams, only 5 of them ranked in the top 100. People need to understand this about the net. It is designed to be correct one time, and that is on Selection Sunday. So there's going to be a lot of fluctuation. A lot of this non-conference stuff is getting baked into the cake, so that becomes less and less. But at this time of year, there's going to be a lot of fluctuation in those net rankings.
Yeah, and the reality is I'm not as big. I don't think you should put everything on net ratings. Like that's just the reality. That teams can grow so much from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And so oftentimes the team we see in February and March does not look in the least bit like the team we see in November and December. And so I think you've got to really watch these teams and see the development and see the growth, especially in an era now where the roster turnover is so great. There's so many new pieces. Oftentimes, the coaches don't know what they have. They haven't had an opportunity to see their group grow through the adversity and grow from it. And that's why I think you got to be real careful when we put so much weight early in the season on where these teams are. I remember last year we had the Players Era tournament. Houston went 1-2, and everybody was saying that they're not that good, and they were 2 minutes away from being national champions. So I just think we want to make sure we give these teams some time to grow. Once we get into conference play where you're playing those true road games, that's when you're going to start to get a real feel for whether or not these teams have a chance to play in March.
I agree with everything you said, and that's why I believe this is one metric that the committee is going to look at, the net ranking. They need to go back to looking at your final 10 games because these teams are changing more than we've ever seen from November into March, and where are you at in your final 10 really should matter. That's not a metric anymore. It used to be up until 5 or 6 years ago. That said, why the metrics do matter is because they do look at those net rankings. So individually for each team, you shouldn't be that worried. 6 teams in the bottom 100 is not good. For the league is the problem. Individually as a team, you stack wins, you're good. You stack losses, you're in trouble. So that's easy. But as a league right now, once you hit basically in 2 weeks and it just becomes league play, it's hard to get those quad one wins. And then only in some of these, when you have 6 teams sub 100, we're not talking even quad 2 wins. So when you're evaluated against your overall record, even if as you're improving, Greg, to your point, it may not be reflected in your quadrant wins. And that's a problem. The ACC has suffered for this for years. The last couple of years, Pitt is a great example. Wake Forest. You could look at different teams. Clemson, they've gotten better through the course of the year, but their numbers don't show it because the league wasn't good. So that's the concern for the league and these metrics right now. But individually as a team, you shouldn't be worried about it. Take care of your business. You'll be fine.
That's it.
Well, those are the games that are big as far as building that net, building that resume. Greg, I think you make some great points. Teams change because the team's makeup changes. Even a team like Butler. You talked about Bizjack being a key part. DC touched on Michael Ajayi. I think both those guys are pro forwards. I really feel that way. Like, I think that they're the pro, like maybe not NBA, maybe a cup of coffee.
I was going to say, there's a lot of pros.
Yeah.
You know,
I think they're
Italy,
I think they're both pro forwards. And Ajayi right
Russia.
now is averaging a double-double. He's also passing the ball at a high level. Bizjack always had a little erraticness to his game. I think the X factor for them is ultimately going to be guard play, and they brought in a point guard from IPFW. He's been okay at times. Jalen Jackson, he needs to be a little bit better.
Yeah, he's going to have to improve. But one of the other advantages is, and this is where the game has evolved also, because you're going to have the ball in Bizjack and Ajayi's hands a lot more. It's not the traditional scenario where the point guard comes up and basically dictates every possession. That's not how you play. Oftentimes now, your point guards have to have the ability to space the floor and be really good point of attack defenders. And so while he's taking his time getting comfortable playing at this level, Bizjack and Ajayi have to continue to play at their level. And I think the team, it'll allow for their other guys to kind of come along at their own pace, because you can't force that square peg into a round hole.
And I don't think they have, which has been really good credit to the team and Thad Matta. They're kind of playing their roles and kind of assuming them faster than many people. Like I said, I'll put myself that I thought they would get there as far as understanding how they want to play and how to be effective, whether it's offensive glass, the free throw lines we mentioned before. They're shooting it in a high clip. They don't take a lot of threes, but they take a lot of really good ones. They're getting in the lane. They're kicking out. They're stepping in 1-2. They're good off transition because they do try to push the ball quite a bit. So when they take good threes, they're making their threes at a good clip. They're playing good team basketball. I like to see them turn over the ball less. That would be a concern for me right now with Butler. So in the game like this, let's play the right way, play for each other, and take care of the little things. One issue that coaching can't really change that does worry me with this team is free throw shooting. And they were in a tight game with SMU, and free throws, didn't become the issue, but they will in these Big East games. They will as they move forward. So being able to step in that line and make some free throws is a big deal.
It's a really big deal for all of Thad Matta's teams. This team, Butler, 323rd in the country, to his point about the free throw shooting. He's always been elite at maximizing opportunities. So they're among the leaders, not only in offensive free throw rate, but defensive free throw rate. They just had a game against Wright State. They outshot Wright State 26-3 in terms of free throw attempts. So having a low percentage becomes a concern. I'll be interested. He's got 10 guys who are averaging 10 or more minutes.
Yep.
And I think it's by design. He wanted a deeper team. He wants to oppose that style. I'll be interested to see as the season goes on, provided everybody's healthy, if he tightens that rotation. Because, again, I was courtside for their game at SMU, and he was doing a lot of substituting. Jalen Jackson was coming off an injury, so he didn't play the last 6 or 7 minutes. And I felt like sometimes it can disrupt the rhythm a little bit. So Thad's been doing this a long time. He went to Butler. This is his 4th year now, so he's got a little bit of a culture going. I'm going to be interested to see if he can stay committed to playing 10 or 11, or if he says, you know what, let's make that more of a traditional 7 or 8 man rotation.
The one advantage to playing 10 guys, though, is your practice. Because now you get to have competitive practice. I've gone to a few practices where teams only play 7, and basically everybody that they're competing against in practice are walk-ons. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't bode well for you. Like, to have 10 guys that knowing that they're going to be in a rotation, it makes your practices much more intense. They're much more physical. And so that is the one advantage to having that. And so I do understand it can be a challenge to find minutes because basketball is a game of rhythm. But, boy, I tell you what, when you practice well, oftentimes that translates to the game.
Eastern Michigan has won 2 straight. They've held their opponents to 56 and 55 points. And they won at Cincinnati. And Butler
impressive.
is a massive favorite in this game at home. Eastern Michigan should not be slept on. All right,
What's the spread? What's the spread?
17.5 to be exact, Greg. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a closer game than that, but that's just my opinion. Let's dive into the second half.
Take the points, folks. Take the points.
Creighton has 4
Responsibly.
They have 4 more wins than Nicholls State. Nicholls State is on the offer, guys. They are 0 and whatever. As far as this Creighton team, Greg, this is interesting because they say bye-bye to Ryan Kalkbrenner, And we were like, oh, no problem. They still shoot it well. They have high basketball IQ. They'll be fine. It's been a bit of an adjustment for them.
It's been a huge adjustment. And what we touched upon earlier, the fact that they're relying on some guys that haven't really done it at this level where there's expectations, right? So Blake Harper coming over for Howard, Nick Graves coming from Charlotte. Good. Obviously, they can play, but they're in a new system. They're playing with new players, new environment. Sometimes that adjustment can take a little longer than maybe a coach can afford to wait.
And he's been impatient a little bit. But Coach McDermott's upset because the impatience is not about performance or guys making shots. He's going to complain about effort and just playing strong and physical for each other. And when you're coaching effort and you're coaching that stuff, you aren't working on the X's and O's as much right now. And that's been part of their problem. Injuries another part. Not having Jackson McAndrew, one of your better offensive players, is an issue. Their schedule. I mean, they played tough teams. They were figured to be a top 25 team. They play out in the Players era. Didn't go well out there.
Eyeball test the tournament team right now.
You love this right now. We just went through how much teams improve from now to then. But but no, right now they're not a tournament team.
I think they have serious issues.
Well, no, right now they're not a tournament team. But
if the tournament started today, they're not.
They're not in it.
No, I know, but could you see something like you look at a crystal ball and be like, they're going to figure it out? I got big time concerns about that.
I think tonight will tell us a lot.
Well, the thing is that they're going to play the way they play. They're going to play with pace and space and shoot threes. Problem is they shoot one of the highest rates in the nation, top 50 in the nation in three shot, and they're bottom 100 in makes. Like, that's a problem. So that's an issue with how they're going to manufacture offense. They don't get to the free throw line a ton. And they don't offensive rebound a ton. So it's hard to manufacture offense. So to answer your question, no, not right now. Can they figure this out? Does McAndrew come back? Those remain to be seen.
The game is about possessions, right? Like, you've got to win possessions. Either you offset it with three-point shooting, free throw shooting, turnovers, or rebounds. They're not good in those areas. And it's hard to win at a high level when you don't dominate some facet of the game.
Yeah, we knew they would miss Ryan Kalkbrenner. There would be a downgrade, but it's been a complete drop-off off a cliff. They don't defensive rebound. Baylor got 22 offensive rebounds. Iowa State, 13 offensive rebounds. Oregon, 16 offensive rebounds, even though they were able to counter that at the foul line. We did see some good play out of Blake Harper, I will say, against Oregon, 18-9. I think that was the game where he started to come into his own and maybe started to assert himself as the alpha dude on this team. And then Josh Dix, who didn't come from a mid-major school, he came from Iowa, was a great three-point shooter, had really been shooting poorly. Finally, 5 for 11 his last couple games. Maybe if we could talk about defensive rebounding all you want, Creighton is an offensive-oriented program based on the three-point shot. Josh Dix gives him a couple of makes. Maybe they get something started.
Really, Steven Ashworth, and before that, Ryan Nebhart. Those are lead guards that got guys shots and got the right guy the ball at the right time. They are desperately missing that, too.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out their identity. Creighton, that's the second half of our doubleheader. The first half, Eastern Michigan and Butler. Eastern Michigan has not made the NCAA Tournament Sweet 16.
Say his name. Say his name.
Since 1991.
Damn, I was in school.
What were you doing in 1991, GA?
I think we were getting our ass kicked in the Final Four.
He still weighs the same.
One night.
I know. It was one off night.
I'm impressed with that, brother.
That looked good, man. I had hair.
He weighs the same.
Only thing missing is the hair.
Only thing. What didn't have much back there either. So.